going
This
on?
is round two.
Howdy.
This is
Let's
round
try it
two.
again.
For those of you who listened to the really horrible live stream that lasted like 15 minutes, I apologize. Um, we've been having internet issues here for I don't know, a couple months, man. Like it's been really, really bad, and now it's just horrible. Like the upload stuff. So any kind of live stream that we push out, so we're hopefully getting it fixed. We'll see. So we're just gonna pre-record this and go from here. So our title, which we had on the live stream, was Magic Making Magic, which is weird. Although, unless you guys follow us, you understand. We've posted a couple articles on Magic. We've talked about it on different podcasts. And Magic over the last couple weeks has had a monumental jump. Monumental. I guess in a bear market it is, but it was a really good jump.
It was a big deal,
It was
especially
good.
in this market.
It's
But
been
we'll get
moving.
to it. Yeah, it's been moving, but we'll get to it in a second. Let's look at Bitcoin first. So just want to get an overview of the overall ecosystem and kind of where it's looking. Bitcoin looks good. I mean, we've had a couple weeks of really good movement up. I don't like this volume on Bitstamp. Let me go to Coinbase. At least get a better spot. Better spot volume to get us a little bit better idea of what we're looking at here. So, obviously, we're in a bear market, but when you see a couple of weeks like this, it bodes well for some future movement. We're currently at a bit of resistance here, but I really think that we have some time frame that we're going to see some really good up movement. 30K, I think, is a great spot to see Bitcoin move to this year, and I really think it's going to hit 30K sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we're doing predictions, we can do predictions too, but I suck at them.
No, you don't.
I do, man. Like,
Bad call on Magic, right?
well,
So
that wasn't really a
things.
prediction. It was more of a, hey, this is a really cool project, and hey, it looks really good on the charts right now. Let's see where this thing could go, and it's been going really well. So,
But you predicted up. That's all you do, right? Up or down.
Yeah.
Up and it went up. So
but
you're right.
let me be clear. Long-term prediction. Like when I'm looking at numbers, like it's gonna hit 36,782. It doesn't.
Oh, this day.
On this day at this price.
Yep.
Actually, anybody that does that is probably an idiot. In all reality, but
Yeah.
for me, again, this is last 2021. We hit November was the high. We've just been in a downward trend ever since. This is the best movement we've seen overall since then. And we have regained the last big hurdle. Well, sorry, last big hurdle. The last big event,
Resistance.
the news event of FTX. Right. This was the FTX debacle. One big red candle was it. Like for 1 week, which is actually in my eyes is pretty amazing. This is like the Luna debacle, kind of pushing that stuff down. So when you think about FTX being one of the largest, I mean, in not just crypto, but just in overall legacy markets, and the corruption that went down, and this was all we had, and we've consolidated and moved up from there. I'm incredibly encouraged by that.
Yeah.
We moved through it in that 1 week, retested within the next week, and moved above it. I'm happy. I'm feeling really good. I think that over the next couple of weeks, as far as maybe a couple months, I guess if you draw this out, this is May timeframe. I think we see 30K. I think we can get 30K by May. No. Oh, what was his name? Josh Olszewicz. I can't remember his Twitter handle. It might just be Josh Olszewicz, if I'm even pronouncing it right. But he had back in the day, it was 33K. It was July, 33K by May or something like that, or so it rhymed. And this was in 2020 or no 2018, because he was predicting 33K.
Okay.
and rightly so. I mean, he was just looking at the charts, and like I said, 33K could be here, but he's a good trader. But I mean, 33K by May. I mean,
Maybe.
maybe. I mean, 30K. I mean, we could see. I think in this year, if things are, people get excited about what's happening, and there's different viewpoints. I think we could see as high 36 potentially. We're not seeing all time highs this year. Like,
No.
in my eyes, like
No.
I think we see realistically to move up, to move down, to move up, move down, and then move up to a gazillion. I don't know. Somewhere in there, we're going to see something. I don't think it draws down that low, back down to the 22K or the 20K. I don't think we go that low. We could if we hit this high. But anyways,
I think we could. I think it's possible. Like I think my thought is I think a lot of this run up right now is I still think 50 is most likely going to be the raise, the end of the month. But apparently a lot of people in the market agree with Betty Orb that 25.
what
So,
what 25? We did talk about that last week.
we did, yeah.
Um,
But I think a lot of people are kind of trying to play that bet right now. Is my gut.
I do too.
Just-
I think you're right. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just being cautious, like I'm cautiously optimistic, putting on a little bit of trades, but I'm not going like full bull yet or anything because I'm kind of expecting the Fed to say 50 and then it's going to pull back, all of this exuberance.
Well, and I think if we start seeing people say 25, that gets me a little more nervous that they're going to come in and be 50.
No, exactly. And Powell is so hawkish and he keeps saying it. And just like when the market was way overvalued and I was saying for like a year, like this is real dangerous. Like I was still putting in some bullish trades because Powell kept saying we're just going to keep dumping money. And he's saying now we're going to keep raising until inflation's under control. And it's not under control. It's responded to the actions they've taken. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm expecting. That's how I'm playing it. But this is all like a guessing game, trying to read their minds.
I mean, if we look at last week, what was last week on our podcast? So this was it the 17th?
Yeah, about.
16th. Yeah, close enough. So this is the 16th. So when we were doing the podcast last week, we were at 563. Or did we do it on Tuesday? We did.
I think we did
Tuesday
Tuesday
because I had
a
Monday.
holiday.
Yeah,
Wasn't it? I think it was a holiday Monday.
Monday
too.
was holiday. So
Yeah.
so when we were 5-6 ish when we did the podcast there. So even since then, showing in Trueflation, we're down from there. And this goes in line with the PPI, which
Yes.
is the precursor to the CPI.
Yes.
So many different acronyms. I feel like I'm back in the military again. So it's going in the right direction, and you can keep raising, but I think when they look at what they did with the money dumping in, right, and they just kept dumping it in and didn't care about the results or what happened. It's the same thing here. Is if they keep raising it too much and not see what's going to happen down the road, I think that definitely hurts the economy. So
Totally agree.
So I think a 0.25% sounds right. When is that? When is that day?
I'm not
What day
sure.
is that?
So it's
29th?
January 31st and February 1st is when their meeting is. So it's going to be one of those days, and I don't know which day. If it's going to be January 31st or February 1st, but it should be one of those days. So I'm just soon.
So next week.
Next week, basically.
Okay.
A little over a week. 7-8 days.
Cool.
And it'll be interesting because if it's 25, I think the market will continue to move up and like that. But if it's 50, I think some of these gains we've seen in the last couple of weeks will pull back a bit. Not all the way back down, but back.
So we didn't verbally do a disclaimer here, and we can post this in the beginning of when we put the recording out.
Oh yeah.
But basically, read this. It's saying, this is for informational purposes only. Everything we do here, we're not telling you to buy anything. We're not telling you to sell anything. We're just letting you know kind of what we think what the market's doing and kind of stuff we're looking at and that we like. So that's it.
Yes.
And I apologize if I cough every once in a while because I'm a little congested after getting the cold last week. So it was a weird one too.
You were sick for real bad for like a day, and then you were like,
"Oh my god!" I did the podcast on Thursday with Faz, and that evening I was like, "I just don't feel right." Went home, sat down on the couch, and I was like, "Hey, I don't feel good," and I just all of a sudden just got this headache, and it was the worst headache I've had in my life. Anyways,
God.
long story short, it lasted through most of all night through most of the next day, and it started to kind of peel off towards the end of the next day, and then I was just congested. I'm fine.
Great. It's fast recovery.
Yeah, no fever. I'm good. But back to the markets. Everybody's like, get back to the markets. Don't talk about you. Nobody cares. Get back to it. Tell me what I need to buy. I'm not telling you to buy anything, remember?
Exactly.
Anyways, Bitcoin, like it. 30K. Done. That's a magnet. It's going there. It's going to go there. Like, I would bet a lot of money that we're going to see 30K this year, at least.
Yeah.
So, not that it's going to be 30K
Straight up. It's not
you know,
gonna be
straight up here. Remember, everything moves in cycles. Look at the rest of the chart. It's going to happen. You know, we should look on here. What's the
The
look
cloud.
like?
Yeah.
Oof. Oh, look at that. Look at that beautiful line. See, everybody's like, oh, look, that TA sucks. I guarantee you this is going to be a high point of resistance.
Yeah.
Your 36, whatever, 36.3, this range right here, it's going to be a high point of resistance. You know, these long flat areas on the cloud, both whether it's on the top of it or the bottom of it, it's going to act as support and resistance. And obviously right now it's about it, so it's going to be resistance. So,
Am I
that doesn't mean
right to say you should have zero exposure if you're doing cloud trading?
It
right
depends
now?
on who you are and how you're trading.
Yeah.
Look, and no, you'd be wrong because right now you have the lagging span is above price.
Okay. All right. So 25.
Yeah, some people will use it in stages of 4. Like we can go over that real quick. So you have 4 stages of the ET cloud. So you have the lagging span, you have your baseline and your conversion line, and when they cross, that is the next sign or a sign. They don't necessarily go in order. You have the cloud, whether it's green or red. You know, if you're going to be bullish, you want it to be red. You want this blue line above the red line. If you're bullish, you want the lagging span above the price, and then you want the actual candle above the cloud. So right now we're 1 of 4. So some people will just trade that. They'll be like, okay, I'm in, I'm out, and they will. I'm going to be 25% in, and then they're going to, you know, once they get all 4 of those, they'll be 100% in and ride that till the vice versa would be, you know, your lagging span goes below price, which your first moment in time would be in this area here. But again, you got to remember price is in advance. So the price would be over here, 30, or it's 26. I can't remember. I think it's 30. But regardless, as you can see here, price is in front of the lagging span. So if your lagging span at this point was here, your price is out this way. So you're pretty close. You know, you're 25% out at this point in time. Those lines are at the same point as the price. And then when it got below the cloud, you're out as well. So I mean, as you dollar cost average that of getting in and out, your time frame, you were probably out, I would say, averaging in the high 30s, maybe 40s. You know, you can go back in time and see when you were supposed to be in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, ultimately, we had the market crash, the 2020 market crash, which is interesting because, again, we have to go out for the lagging span. You were never fully out at this point in time because it never actually fully went below, except for back here, which, no, that was it. That was it. It's so hard for me to go back when I'm looking at this. I have to go time frames.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah. But either way, we're moving in a direction. This isn't a lesson on the cloud. But regardless, we're looking at some resistance going to be up above, and I think your 36 would be a good number to kind of look at. I would say that, you know, there's a potential hitting it this year. There's a potential cloud to cloud edge trade that's going to come on down the road too. So. And it all kind of plays into the macros that we were talking about. If we go into the next meeting and they start talking about the inflation, they're only going to go 0.25%. I think everybody reacts well, regardless if it's priced in or not, because again, it's another notch down on the amount that they're increasing the interest rates, right?
Right.
So. 25%, I think, is positive movement. 50, I think it's just whatever. We'll probably see a little down movement and then up. Again, because it's we already know that they're raising. It's
Yeah.
been put out there. I don't think that's a huge deal.
25 basis points, not percent. 25 basis
Sorry,
points.
basis points.
Yep.
And then if they 25%,
25%.
they should just do that right away. Get it
It
over.
would
with.
stop inflation
Rip
and
the
everything
Band-Aid.
else.
Rip the
The
Band-Aid
world
right.
economy is done.
Only for a couple days.
We're
bro.
starting-
Come on, we're fine. We'll bring it back down. No.
Good entry point.
Yeah, that's right. Get your cash ready. You heard it here first. The other way is, if they went 75 basis points, right? I don't even think that's on the table.
No, it's not. I mean, the market would melt and everyone would panic if they.
It would be like, oh my god,
Yeah.
especially because we're seeing inflation decreasing
Mm-hmm.
on CPI, Trueflation, PPI, all those things. We're seeing it go down. So there's no reason they should increase the amount that they're increasing the interest rates. So I think that's really good. The one thing that I was talking about before, and I don't know if I mentioned this last week, was the real estate side, right? This real estate is
Yeah.
always it's built in, or no, sorry, it's not built in. It's this last like little foot that's left to fall, right? This
Yeah.
last like block that's not kind of in the place of what we're seeing. And when I'm talking about is interest rates are high and they affect everything, not just real estate, but businesses and everything like that. We did talk about that. But we haven't really seen a huge dip in the real estate market. And I was thinking about this. I'm like, well, do we really have to? Like, so I went back and I looked at some stuff in the real estate markets to see, interest rates and how they affected the real estate markets and, when they're raising interest rates and how that works. And really, the only big effects that we've seen on the real estate market, like that are dramatic, are when there's like a black swan event, like in 2008,
Yeah.
right? That really affected the overall market as well, and not just real estate. So, and that was, again, just shady people doing shady stuff
Yeah.
that created a massive, liquidation event in
Yeah.
overall markets
Uh-huh.
because people were hedged with, leverage on all levels, and they had to cover for that. So you're going to see everything kind of come into play to be able to cover,
Yeah.
those expenses that they had. I don't see that here. I don't know if we're going to see it be this big foot to fall and more of maybe just a grind out of where we're at.
See, I think
I
it's
think that's
geographical too.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, you're talking about Texas the other day, and Texas is already depressed in value.
Yeah, Texas is. I mean, especially when you look at West Coast, it's
Yeah.
the amount that these houses and these pieces of property over the past couple of years have increased in value is just substantially on a percentage level less than what we're seeing in like Oregon and stuff like that. I mean, even property in Eugene is so still overvalued. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, and I think we're in our bubble here that we see. And so, and that's what I was doing last week. I was looking, and we've had a pretty large decrease in like REITs and real estate markets when they're taking in consideration the whole.
Yeah.
Not just our one little geographical area, right? Or a couple different geographical areas. And for me, I'm starting to rethink a little bit of what that would mean moving forward. I don't know if that's going to be it. There's other things that are out there, right? There's other, the currency wars. We're seeing, potentially with China and Russia trying to do their own, whether it's going to be a CBDC or it's going to be their own. They want to kind of combine their own forces to be this one world currency type of situation, or I don't know. There's other things out there that can definitely affect stuff, but in reality, I think we've seen a really large downturn, and we're due a little bit of a reprieve, some movement up, and then some sideways. So
Yeah. I think the black swan event, by definition, you can't predict that, right? Like my concern is that there are people still over leveraged in real estate that are holding their positions, and if real estate comes back a little bit, they're going to be put in a harder spot. Might liquidate things like BlackRock's got a ton of real estate. Some of the other big investment firms have a big stake in it, and if it starts to go sideways, you could see extra selling pressure.
And BlackRock already came out and talked about their their some of their REITs that they have internally that they were halting withdrawals. We talked about that as well before. So
Mhm,
I
mhm.
mean, we kind of go over the same stuff because we're in the same narrative right now.
Mhm.
We haven't seen anything else really change. So in reality, until we see something else change that we don't know about yet, we're really like we're moving up, right? So don't buck the trend. Stick with the trend, right? The
Mhm.
trend right now in the short term, I'm going to say short term instead of
Short
long
term.
term. The short term is up in my eyes. So don't buck the trend, right? Stick with it.
For
But
like the next week. Is my thought.
yeah, I don't think it's going to be a big event. I don't think the CPI is going to be that big of an event. Like you see a little bit of down movement, and regardless of which way we go, and then we're going to go back up for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have targets that are going to get hit. We'll look at the SPY here in a minute, but since we're in crypto, I wanted to go back to the we talked about Bitcoin, and then we move into some of the altcoins that we've been writing some articles about that we're really excited about. We've been talking about Magic since December, in the treasure.lol, the Treasure DAO. Why don't you tell me a little bit about Treasure?
Yeah, so
Magic.
Treasure is a decentralized gaming ecosystem that's kind of positioning itself to become the quote unquote Nintendo of like the blockchain ecosystem. So they provide, interoperable NFT models, developer SDKs, things like that that empower other people in the community to come in and build within the Treasure ecosystem and tap into that large community of players, content creators. They're really creating a vested system I mean, they have a gamified NFT marketplace. Um, the Treasure DAO currently runs the majority of the decisions in the Treasure ecosystem in terms of, okay, what type of mechanisms for vesting and staking do we want to move forward with, which most recently had a snapshot vote. I can share that screen here. So this was concluded last night, and basically this was voting to ratify the current staking and vesting mechanisms that exist in Treasure. So right now, how it works, or how it had worked in the past, was within their flagship game, Bridge World, you could stake your Magic tokens over numerous different time frames, ranging from a couple weeks up to a year. And in turn, you would receive mining emissions proportional to your mining score, which was basically just how much you had staked into the ecosystem. And then on the other side, depending on how long your initial lockup period was, you'd be able to pull out your Magic tokens on a vesting period. So one of the big problems with systems like this is they tend to discourage and move away from gamers. It makes it difficult for the majority of the gaming community to come in and be successful and enter these spaces because they get gamified so hard. And that just kind of means these communities take on more of an investment approach rather than a building for the community, building something where Web 2 gamers can come in and enjoy the benefits of blockchain technology. So within this vote, they were like, okay, should we rip the band-aid off and get rid of the staking investing procedures to create more of a game-focused, community-oriented system? Or do we stay with this current kind of gamified model? And with resounding yes,
Yeah,
they
what was it? I think 90 some odd percent.
98.5% to 1.75% of percent. So basically, the entire community was like, yes, we want to move forward with this model. We want to remove the staking mechanisms. Let's rip that band-aid off and move forward in the way that we want to move forward. So it's really exciting. The one thing that will be interesting is on the 25th of this month, so Wednesday, at about 5 p.m. is when that vesting period is going to stop. So anyone who has their tokens staked in the Atlas mine system all of those tokens are going to be unlocked at a single time frame. The reason for doing that was, that's how they ripped the band-aid off. If they continued to do some sort of like vesting period where you're getting unlock over a period of time, they're like, that could just slow down this process of really shifting towards this new model we want to go towards. So yeah, they are, like they said, they're ripping the band-aid off, and they're really moving forward with creating a system that's built for gamers, not the Roy boys or those people we see all too common in a lot of these blockchain projects that really aren't there for the benefit of the community.
That's great. That's
And I
great, man.
and I
Like,
think
do we
that's
know?
what was
Sorry, do
that?
we know how much? Do we know roughly how much?
So
Like percentage-wise is staked, or like how
I
much is
would
gonna?
so there's two kind of thought processes. So in order to vote in the snapshot votes and to be a part of the Treasure DAO, you have to have staked magic. So looking right here for this vote, there was about 103 million magic staked it to vote on this process. Granted, a
Okay.
lot of those tokens could be pulled right back out as soon as the vote was over, and they're actually not staked. They were just put in the LP pool to get the what they call G
Yeah.
magic, which is just the right to vote.
Hmm.
What I did see in some of their documentation was currently the longest vesting period you could be a part of was 1 year. There was 50 million magic staked in that 1 year tranche that is all going to be released on the 25th. I would assume that's the majority of the tokens being staked because that just had the greatest obvious like APY type return if you think about it that way.
Right.
Um, So, it is going to be interesting to see from a chart perspective and stuff what that does going forward.
And so, if the circulating supply is like 206 million, if I'm reading it right,
Yep.
on CoinGecko, that's nearly 25%.
Yep.
That are getting unlocked. So you'd have to assume some of those people are going to sell and take some profits.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would assume so. No, normally those type of unlocks are pretty bearish in price movement, and so that's in 2 days.
Yeah.
So you're telling me there's a chance. Okay.
But that
I
is
got-
the
I
one
got-
thing that's
I got out too early.
Michael wants back in. He wants to be bearish because he wants to get back in.
it's interesting though because I do think there is going to be a big dip down.
Yeah.
That being said, I do think the fact that so many people voted in favor of this. Granted, some of those people might have been voting in favor because they want to be able to pull out all their tokens and dump them.
Yeah.
I do think a lot of people were in favor of one step back for 10 steps forward. And so
Yeah.
this is, yes, going to be, not best for price on a short-term scale, but overall it's just going to allow Magic to really get to where it needs to be, and it will kind of push out those negative players from being in the system.
Yeah.
It might remove.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's, I would assume there's, a couple whales in the community right now that will probably be some of those ones getting out because they are like, okay, going forward, my investment opportunity will look different, if you want to call it that, because it is shifting more towards the needs and wants of the gamers. But that just puts more of the circulating supply back into the hands of the gamers, and allows them to be more involved with the votes and things of that nature. So
Yeah.
I think overall it is still going to be a very beneficial thing for the community, but I would definitely, it's going to be something to keep your eye on over the next 2 days.
Definitely. I mean, that's an event to watch for. Me personally, I'm probably going to look at selling. I don't think it's going to be a bullish event. I don't think it's something like, hey, guess what? It's unlocked and it's going to be bullish. Like, I don't find that. So me personally, I'll definitely take some off the table, and look for some buybacks. Seeing if there's some decent, if it's a decent drop, and kind of see where that goes. Like, realistically, it could. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell. Like, are we going to move up to this next fib level for this? That's pretty big move in the next 2 days to the 170 mark. We'll see. But I'm definitely gonna be on my toes. I'll probably take some off the table and then watch it kind of move down, consolidate, and then I mean, overall, Magic is super exciting to me.
They're doing everything right.
Oh man, it's so great. Like, I retweeted this tweet
that Twitter thread.
Yeah, dude, and it just rung so well with me. And what I basically said was, this thread reminds me of a lot of people the way they talked about Gala back in early 2020. Gala had they were doing they were supposed to do what Magic was doing. Like the idea that they presented to you was you were a part of this. We were going to create this. They're going to make this great gaming ecosystem. You know, one token to rule them all. Like that was there. 2020, you know, coming from 2019 into 2020 with Gala, that was the excitement. And it was a smaller community. The Discord was there, like, and that was what I saw. And you know, you started talking with people, and you know, right now I still talk with a ton of people from that time frame, right? Like I've made friends with them, met them in person, you know, went to conferences with them, and this is has that same feel to it. And so for me, it provides it's going to be an opportunity for myself to kind of maneuver into a community that I really think is going to, you know, move in the right direction. So I really like what they're doing.
And
I'm excited.
you know, I think one of my favorite things about it, in terms of projects of this scale, they're the only one that is ran by a DAO, right? So they're you know, fully driven by the community in that sense where, yeah, like this is one of the biggest, this past snapshot vote was one of the biggest ratifications that will happen over the history of Treasure to this date. And, you know, that was put in the hands of the community. And so I think having that just additional layer of communication and transparency and allowing the gamers to decide what they want to do with the games that they're playing. Yeah,
Yep.
I really like it.
Yeah, and that's a huge way that, you know, Gala and Treasure are different, right? Like the
Gala's
DAO
private.
aspect. Gala's private. You know, they're going to talk to the community, but then they're going to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
You know, where with the DAO, it's like it is the community. So I think that's a uniquely positive thing about this project, I think.
Well, yeah, and on the chart for myself again, if this is where we stop here in the next, if this daily stays below, you know, the 134, I'm gonna go down on the kind of the 2 hour to get a little bit more of a better look here. For a granular, like if I'm looking to see where we're at right now, you know, unless we get another move up above here, this might be the top. This might be the spot where we see people start to get out. Now, these are traders that are trying to front run the same thing that we're talking about here, right? They're saying, hey, I bought in down here. I'm taking my profits out because I know there's a vote that's going to come through. But you also potentially can get some sort of squeeze sometimes with people. I don't know if this is traded with any leverage on any exchanges. I haven't looked at that.
Right.
I'm literally spot through a DEX. I'm trading on Arbitrum personally. I know you can get it on Coinbase and Binance, so you probably can do some leverage stuff with Binance. And I don't know. That's just kind of a spot to see. If you've got in low, you know, if you're ready to long term hold this, I think it's a great long term hold. Personally, like that's for me. I'm holding this long term. I want to get more involved with the community. Definitely going to be diving in and seeing kind of what's really happening internally and be a part of that. I'm excited for it. So.
Yeah.
It might be worth trying to, if we can deep dive and try and find out if there is any kind of leverage for Magic, you know, just because
it's easy enough. It's a guarantee. There's some stuff on Binance. Everything they list, they end up listing some sort of leverage stuff for it. So
I'm just thinking the pullback could be more fierce if, you know, the run up was, you know, potentially due to some leverage, due to people, you know, jumping in and riding this. We might see a decent sized pullback. It'll be interesting.
Here. Haven't been on here in a while. So Binance is the largest market right now, 24 hour daily. But with Binance, with Magic USDT and then Magic BUSD. So between the two of them on Binance, you know, you're looking at, and those are both stable coins if you don't know, 70 million, 80 million.
Yeah, 80
in daily volume. So, you know, you're looking at 67% of the actual volume coming through is through Binance. Coinbase is down below here. Gate.io, you know, has a significant amount more than that. OKX, I think OKX has leverage too, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't trade on any of those. So, and then you have Magic BTC. Interesting. So, and here I am down here trading on this lowly little. And this is why it's hard for me to get any kind of. I'm like, I'm in. I'm like,
What?
Yeah. Do I want to pull out of that? This is some hope. It can't be
You-
that. There's
you
no
are
way
the
it can
volume.
be. There's no way it can be that low.
It's
I
literally
don't
only
know,
Nate.
There's no way it can be that low because I'm not moving the market that much. Like I'd be moving the market way too much if it's
Yeah,
that
that's
low.
hilarious.
But regardless, maybe I go to Coinbase if they could actually give me my open up my trading.
Yeah,
line.
seriously.
Yeah. But
All right, I think we
James.
talked about Magic. We should move on.
Yeah.
Do we want to quickly go into some of the Play Labs and Champions Ascension stuff real quick before we move to Legacy?
No, I think that's a totally different conversation. It's not really a market
We could,
conversation.
we could do that tomorrow even.
Yeah, I mean we're gonna be talking with Tim tomorrow and stuff that he's doing. So let's we'll move on. We'll go Legacy. I got Tesla up, but I'm gonna go to Spy first. Just I want to show a couple things. One is nice move. Interesting that it's not. Oh, there we go. It's just lagging a little bit. Of course.
You're right.
So I mean, I've had this drawn up here forever. If people were following before, I had this stupid little squiggly line that's been, and it's kind of following that same direction. This isn't, just a broadening wedge. It's coming down through, and so this morning we opened up, covered the gap. That it dropped down, covered
Yep.
that gap up, or like
That was very
gap.
healthy for
Ah,
bullish. Yep.
that was one thing I was kind of worried about what that gap was going to do.
Yeah.
But we've kind of broken through the resistance here of both the line. We haven't closed yet. We still have an hour and a half left.
Mhm.
The top part of that broadening wedge, the 50 fib level, which is basically top to bottom that I drew for the fib level that we're looking at. And the big part for me is, we see this low here, and then we got a lower low. Just kind of, for me, looks a lot like we're just taking out some, stops essentially.
Mhm.
Nice move. And then we have this, higher low with some decent consolidation. We didn't really even come close to, this other lower low.
Yeah.
And kind of moving in the direction of, I think we're seeing the markets say we're going to move higher
Mhm.
overall. Again, I think it's going to be much like Bitcoin. We move to a level. Do we see the 400s, the lower 400s, or a little bit higher? Do we test this high here and create a new
430-ish.
higher high in that time frame? What is that? 430? Yeah.
Mhm.
We're definitely probably see some reaction at that point in time, but overall, I don't think we're gonna see this get wiped out. Right? I
No.
think we see some movement up. We could see some movement down overall for the next year, but I think the lows are in. There's a highly likely the lows are in, unless there's something else that we see, that's going to really have a ripple effect come into play. And I don't think it's the CPI and interest rates. I think we've
No.
kind of seen where that's at, and whatever little reaction we get on those days, that's it. Tech stocks were really
Qs,
pushing it.
yeah.
I mean, the tech stocks were the ones that were pushing everything through.
Microsoft will be interesting tomorrow. They report after earnings. They're the first of the big tech to report. So
That'll be interesting.
Doesn't
that'll
isn't
be
Tesla coming up on earnings as well?
Tesla's Wednesday after hours.
Oh.
So I'm definitely going to look to trade Tesla on Wednesday, depending on what Microsoft earnings look like.
Yeah.
Tuesday close. But that'll give us an insight, kind of canary in the coal mine, as far as where things might react with earnings.
Doesn't looks good today, but
most of the charts look pretty darn good.
I mean, there's just so much downward pressure that it's like you expect some sort of bounce up, and whether it's a dead cat bounce or not, like minimum, this is a good point in time to kind of get some gains in, So this is nice to see a little bit of reprieve.
Yeah.
So, you had a couple other things you want to talk about. Legacy's your wheelhouse, bro.
I know, right? Well, I mean, we talked about the interest rate. We talked about Microsoft earnings, all tech earnings coming in. On the more, I'm sounding like a bear here. I'm not a bear, but I'm a little worried about the personal savings rate hitting a 17-year low, and credit card debt at an all-time high. So, I still think there's more pain for consumers and the regular guy at least.
So when you think about that, so credit card debt at an all-time high, and they charge exorbitant amounts of interest on those things anyway. Where does that move to? Like, Are you thinking it's going to be a default type situation, or
Well, I think it's just people are going to just start tightening. I think we're already in a recession. I think the recession is going to get a little tighter before it gets better.
Yeah.
But the market often looks 6 months ahead, so it doesn't mean like the stock market may still do okay.
right?
But I think as far as the recession in the economy, I think we still got a little bit of pain ahead of us, like that we haven't felt quite yet.
So from and what's that pain going to come from? The tightening itself. So you're talking about consumers just not spending as much money.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
Yes.
there's less money circulating just as people are having to pay down credit card debt to.
Yeah.
Money,
Well, that is a direct relation to the interest rates,
right, and that's what they want, right? I mean, they are trying to get people to stop spending so much.
which
So
we're already seeing that,
exactly,
right? And
So-
and like you said, was it Walmart? What was their earnings? Because I mean, when you talk about like spending, you want to see in a recession or in a downturn, right? Where do people go? They go to the safe havens of, you know, beans and bullets, right? Or in terms
Yeah.
of where do people shop? They shop at cheap places, Walmart, right?
Yeah.
They don't do the luxury goods. So
Mhm.
what's the indice to look at to say where's that luxury good market? Because when that starts to turn around, then I feel like that's when you're going to see, oh, people are buying boats again.
Right.
People are buying Lambos.
Right.
That's the luxury market is I'm flush with cash.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to look at that best. Something to
It's
think about
interesting.
this week.
But
That's a
I-
research
it-
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's a good idea.
it comes into play with exactly what you're saying. Though, is like people are tightening. When or where are they tightening at, and how long is that tightening going to go?
Yeah.
And are the credit card debt's at a all-time high because they need that extra money to pay for food, to pay for
Right.
their cell phone, their jeans, whatever.
But eventually they're gonna have to stop buying that cell phone.
Yeah, and how do you get out of that hole, right?
Yeah.
You get given a lot of money by the government, and they start printing it some more.
Yeah.
Give you your UBI.
I know, right?
It's coming, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
They're going to do it at some level. I mean, they tested it out with COVID, essentially. That was their whole
Mhm.
print it, give you all a stimulus check, and here you guys go. And
And then it was just, of course, the year after I graduate. I'm like, I never took out a student loan. And I'm like, damn it. I wish I wish I would have taken one out. So,
learn the hard way.
no, I mean, I'm grateful for doing it my way, but yeah, it's interesting.
If you want to pull up a chart, I mean, we could look at a couple of charts.
What do you got?
The trade I did on Team, we could kind of go through what that's looking like right now. Yep. So I'm thinking on the if you go to the daily, it had that gap at 170. So I bought at 148 and I sold the 170 for 5 in premium, and so it's working out pretty nicely here. I'm just sort of sitting on the position for now, and if it sort of sits here into February, then it'll be a good profitable trade. If it starts to pull back from here, then I'll close the position and take profits. But it's that chart's worked out pretty well so far.
Yeah.
I think in this market, there's a decent chance it still closes that 170,
Yeah.
depending on what earnings look like this week.
I have it at win 68.49.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Roughly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I sold my call. I sold
Yeah.
my call at 170. That was the strike.
You don't even know what these guys do. You just saw the chart and traded it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And then Arista Network was one of the other ones I did. ANET. That was a very short-term trade that worked out. That was the chart again, telling me to do it.
Great.
ANET.
ANET?
Mhm.
A-N-E or A-N-E-T?
ANET. Yep. And then there was a gap below the market at around like 113 that had I had shorted the market just by buying a short-term put when it was around 115, and then it closed the gap, and I closed my position and took profits, and then it immediately bounced off that gap and is now looking more bullish. Although I think there's a little gap below from yesterday. We look at the numbers to know for
You
sure.
love your gaps.
I do, because
Mine
they
the
often
gap.
fill. They often fill. Not 100% of the time, but a lot of the time. And then when they do, about 80% of the time, they often will bounce off of that. So it's just
Yeah, it'll probably get filled right here.
yeah.
It'll move in this direction. Earnings come out, fill the gap.
Yep.
do its thing.
Exactly. So that was a good little trade that worked out. And then we kind of looked at Tesla already. I'm watching that real close into earnings to sort of see what they do. They're looking bullish right now, but earnings, especially on Tesla, is always a wild ride.
It's always volatile. They're
Yeah.
probably in their earnings is going to come out and be like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we bought back into Bitcoin."
Right, exactly.
Because that's when everything, if you remember, Elon in the last little bull
Yeah.
run when they were like, "Yep, we bought Bitcoin," and it
Yep.
was like, "Oh God," and you could kind of see this large volume buying that was going on.
Mhm.
And recently, over the weekends, there was these last couple weekends, we've seen some pretty bullish buying in
Mhm.
Bitcoin.
That's an interesting.
I'm not saying they're doing it. I'm
Yeah,
not saying they're doing it.
yeah.
I'm just saying there's some similarities that
Mhm.
were going on between that time and this time. So
Yeah.
that would be interesting. I think they would have gotten to a much better price than they did the last time. 'Cause I think they bought it like 36 the last time.
Yeah. But I think they still exited at a profit, if I remember
I think
right.
they got a loss actually.
Did they?
Well,
Okay.
part of it they sold some at a profit,
Yeah.
and I think some at a loss. I think because they were coming into the end of the year and they sold,
Yeah.
which I mean a lot of people did take the loss on it. But who knows?
Yeah. But that'll be an interesting one to watch. It's kind of what I'm watching right now.
Cool. What else you got? Is that it?
Yeah, that's it right now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we covered a lot. I think we're good for the market update. It could go up or it could go down. That's my official statement.
Cross that bridge. Yeah, that's our official position. It's going to go
100%.
one way or the other.
It's going to go one way or the other. I mean, that's a guarantee. I mean, it's just not going to stop, right?
Yeah.
Except on the weekends.
Yes.
Cool. Well, let's end it there. And you boys and girls and everybody else that's out there, have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Cool.
All right. Let me